Something is happening over in Germany, guys. I don't know if any of you can sense it, but there's a slight chill in the air. After 25 games played in the league, with only 9 left to go, Bayern Munich are not on top of the table. That's right, this is not a drill. I repeat, Bayern Munich are not on top of the table. Not enough shock value? Okay, well, how about this? For the first time since 2012, after 25 games played, Bayern Munich are not in pole position. Now, as of 2022, Bayern have won 10 Bundesliga titles in a row, meaning that in 2012, they did not. And who won, you ask? Borussia Dortmund, the top dogs in Germany as of right now. Okay, let's backtrack. While what I just said is factually correct, it is a little bit misleading. Borussia Dortmund have had a strong push for the title on a few separate occasions in that 10-year time span. The most recent being in 2019, where they finished 2 points off Bayern Munich and actually were in first place on match day 27. Alas, with only 7 games left, they failed to see things through. Tough. But to a lot of people, this time feels different. More hopeful, more open. But why is that? Well, for starters, Bayern just sacked their manager midway through the campaign, but there's more to it than that, and today we're going to talk about it. With that being said, what is going on over in Germany? Yo, what's going on, guys? Hope you're all doing well. I'm Tinashe, and welcome back to another video. Before we even begin to get into Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund, I think we got to take a second to talk about the entire Bundesliga as a whole so far. It's been quite interesting this year. Right now, the top 5 teams are only separated by about 8 points, a lot closer than many would have imagined, given that there are only 9 games left to play. And in a strange turn of events, the team that was in 6th place at the season's midway point has taken pole position. Union Berlin and SC Freiburg have been in very impressive form this year, 3rd and 4th at the moment. Maybe this shouldn't be all that much of a surprise, seeing as they did finish strong last season. Major props to Union Berlin, who only entered the Bundesliga for the first time in 2019, yet are only 4 points off Bayern Munich. Bayer Leverkusen has been on a wild ride this year, going from relegation candidates at the start of the year and losing their first 3 matches to becoming contenders for spots in European competitions. Xabi Alonso, who replaced Gerard Deschamps, has been given huge props for this turnaround. And speaking of which, it was Alonso and his side that gave Bayern Munich one of their most significant defeats of the season, a 2-1 comeback win. Both of their goals were penalties, which a lot of people would probably be quick to point out, but they all count the same, don't they? Also, why are all the blue badges at the bottom? Anyone else notice this kind of stuff and kind of fixate on it? Only me? Oh, anyway. Tough for Stuttgart though. Bayern Munich have dominated the Bundesliga for decades upon decades. More recently, and more specifically, the most recent decade. 10 Bundesliga titles in a row. And apart from a select few seasons, the rest of the pack didn't offer all too much competition. Although, as things stand today, that isn't really the case. Bayern remain a strong force in Europe. Right now, they are the 2nd most likely team to win the Champions League, as per Bet365. But in the league, their performances haven't been vintage, if we're all being honest. A really strange thing to say about a team that's in 2nd place and 1 point off the top, but this is Bayern Munich we're talking about. The standards are impossibly high. So what's going on? Is Manuel Neuer's bizarre skiing accident to blame? In case you missed it, bro decided to end his season in December. I honestly thought that almost all big clubs had enough sense to contractually ban their players from participating in high-risk activities because of this exact reason. But then again, Manu is a risk taker. Has it been a lack of overall enthusiasm by the players? Maybe some would say yes, but even more would probably say that it's been a confusing set of instructions coming from the top down. Unsurprisingly, and probably deservedly, Julian Nagelsmann was in the firing line as his tactics haven't been all that much of a hit at the Allianz Arena lately. We were consistently getting reports of how the dressing room was split over those in favor of his tactics and those against them. That, along with the constant changes in formation and in-game tweaks, have left us with more questions than answers. João Cancelo, on loan from Man City, has been just one of the players that's been singled out by the man himself for not understanding the tactics laid out. And then, one of the absolute worst things that you could imagine happening to a coach happened. Somebody at Bayern decided to leak a couple of pages from Nagelsmann's book of tactics a few weeks ago, complete with running and passing lines as well as individual instructions. The realization that there was a mole in the dressing room probably wasn't taken too lightly. But seriously though, leaking team information to the press is one thing. You know, I can kind of see where you're coming from if you're a disgruntled employee and you're just trying to, expose what goes on behind closed doors. But team tactics, that's crazy, right? Like, you're not helping anybody. Apart from that, faith in the 35-year-old to take Bayern forward was waning for quite some time now, whether it be due to the fact that he comes to work on a skateboard or that he was dating a former Bild reporter, the latter of which has fueled theories that Nagelsmann himself was the one that leaked the tactics to the press, whether it be intentionally or unintentionally. All in all, he wasn't having the best of times recently. Anyway, come a do-or-die match against Xabi Alonso's Bayer Leverkusen, it was expected that Bayern would push hard for the win. This did not end up being the case. And just so we're all on the same page as to how the Bayern higher-ups felt about this performance, Nagelsmann was sacked a few days later, with Thomas Tuchel coming in as his replacement, right in time for Der Klassiker. A monster clash in general, more so given where we sit right now. Despite the poor results, this came as a surprise. There were rumors that Nagelsmann might be leaving Bayern at the end of the season if things went poorly, but a mid-season exit for Bayern Munich, that's pretty rare. According to certain reports, it appears that the Bavarians were pressured into installing Tuchel in the hot seat, perhaps out of fear of missing out on his services. That's what happened in 2018 when he moved over to PSG, after all. At the time, he was apparently quite high up on their list of potential Jupp Heynckes replacements. Speaking of Tuchel, his old team's been on a heck of a hot streak lately. 10 straight games unbeaten in the league since football returned in Germany following the World Cup. 9 wins in that period too. Defeat has only been served to them by Chelsea in the Champions League. But other than that, Edin Terzic's men have been phenomenal in the second half of the season. Before that, there was quite a bit of indifference over his appointment. Marco Rose, who was the manager for last season and last season alone, was criticized quite heavily throughout the course of the season. It eventually seemed as though him and the club just weren't a good fit, and he was sacked at the end after a second-place finish. The departure of resident cyborg Erling Haaland wasn't seen as a good thing for Borussia Dortmund by anyone involved. Sure, they managed to pocket his release clause money of 60 million euros, but the amount of goals that this man can score for you is priceless in this day and age. Just ask Man City. Having said all of that though, funnily enough, at this exact same stage of last season, after 25 games, they had 53 points. The exact same total they're sitting on this year. On paper, they haven't improved nor regressed. Bayern Munich, on the other hand, was sitting on 59 points. At a glance, it seems that the activities at the top of the table this year are more a result of the falling off of Bayern than anything else. Football isn't played on paper though. We want to make every game an experience. That's what people identify with. That's what it was like in 2010 to 2013, when the ground was bursting with expectation each week and people couldn't bear waiting for the next game. Edin Terzic, who's been around the Dortmund setup for some time now, said this when referring to his current team. First, he was a scout and assistant youth coach all the way back in 2010. Then later, he was the first team assistant coach, then the technical director, and now the main man. The guy is well aware of his club's shortcomings when compared to the juggernaut of Bayern Munich, the second biggest club in the country by far, yet paling in comparison to the Bavarians in almost every aspect. Despite this, their scouting team knows how to find gem after gem and keep them in contention year after year. This year is no exception. Jude Bellingham, Julian Brandt, and Rafael Guerreiro, to name just a few, have been exceptional. All the same, a recent injury to Julian Brandt, one of Dortmund's most creative forces, has already reminded us of one of the many reasons that explain why Dortmund falter far more than their red adversaries. The squad depth just isn't there in bulk. Let's just say Gio Reyna probably wouldn't make Bayern's bench. God forbid something happened to Bellingham, you know? This guy is so important to them that just the other day, we were hearing rumors that Dortmund are willing to make him the highest paid player in their club's history. 15 million euros a year. Not sure how true that is, but the fact that it's somewhat believable paints a pretty telling picture. The guy's 19, by the way. As I noted earlier in the video, Borussia Dortmund came close to taking home the title back in 2019. They were leading the pack late into the season, but then their title charge was cut short after a 5-0 thrashing to Bayern Munich in early April. Mats Hummels even scored in that match. It's enough to make a grown man cry. It really is. With a handful of games still to come, who knows how it will all pan out when it's all said and done. How each team responds will be interesting. It's close, but let's not forget, Bayern Munich have been here before. Fortunately, possibly unfortunately, so have Dortmund. And there we have it. Let me know what you guys think is going to happen in Germany. Feel free to follow all the socials, all the links are in the description. That's all for me today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you're having a great day. Cheers, and I will catch you in the next one.